Judy Gartman's enthusiasm is infectious. As a reading and writing specialist and learning coach, her passion is to make learning fun. Her passion is doing exactly what she's doing. Reading, writing, study skills, Judy does it all, with caring and positivity, and with a unique approach that teaches her students to think out of the box. Welcome, Judy Gartman.
Thank you so much for asking me.
I'm so happy you're here.
Those are amazing. That's an amazing description of me, and I'm going to take that.
But it's very you.
But it is
I know
me.
who you are, and that's who you are.
And, you know, the passion, I have been working with kids for so many years. I remember even in college working, tutoring kids and going to homes. And then once I got my degree and my master's in reading, and then I have a master's in administration.
Oh, I didn't know you had that, too.
Yes, and then I had to make a choice whether I wanted to go into administration or...
Administration as far as what?
Administration
at a school?
schools. Yes, I could have become an assistant principal and so on. And I think that was the test. And the test was, I want to work with kids. And I never look back.
Right, because I know how much you love it.
Yeah, I'm so fortunate because it's not a job.
I know that.
It's a calling. It really is. It is a calling. It feels so good to be sitting near a kid, opposite, at my office, and trying to figure out who they are.
Right. And that's,
pretty quickly.
Well, you have to do that so you know exactly how to teach them, in other words. Okay. And I just want to segue into this for a minute because I know that that's how you do it initially, right?
Right.
So let's talk about that.
So as a reading teacher, study skills tutor, clinician, and I like to think of myself, learning coach, I like to think of myself in those terms rather than, quote, tutor.
Because it's more expansive.
Exactly. You really have to look at the whole kid. You want to see what makes the kid ticks and how to motivate their learning. If they're motivated, if they're not motivated, what do you do?
Right.
So,
well, how many kids are motivated? That's why they're there to begin with. Isn't it mostly true? I mean, how many kids say, Mom, I want a tutor because I want to be better?
Actually,
so more like that?
There are. For example, my 4-year-olds, I call them the ready readers. A 4-year-old or early 5 may say to their parent, I really want to learn.
Wow.
And yes,
that was not my son's.
That's
you know
right.
that.
And it wasn't mine either. And by the way, I'm a mother of 2 adult kids. But for the youngsters, you want to be appropriate. You want to be able to play with the words and letters. And how do you motivate? And what's extraordinary is to watch a kid start to actually get it. So I'm just going to show one thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In my office, I have a box of Lego. The kids come up, and I'm going to say without any qualification, everyone loves Lego. Okay? They create, they look, they could play for hours. They can't play for hours because I have stuff to do.
Right.
So they create, and they could tell you all about it. This could be a child from 4, it could be a child's 8 above. But then I could take that, the Lego, and make it into a story. And the child dictates, this is the Buzzy Cub. And I could use that as a way to motivate the kid, using their words.
See, I thought they were just playing with Legos to begin with for a while until you got, no. Okay, so it's part of the whole
Buzzy Cub has a dungeon. The bugs can buzz and sting.
So one of the children, one of your students, told you that story about one of the Legos.
And I am typing it.
Furiously
typing it. And then they sit there and say, oh, come on, let's print it. They're all amazed how fast it prints. And we could do 5-page, 10 pages. Now, I'm thinking back to more than 20 years ago when I had a student who is now a 3rd year in college. he was having a hard time developing his love of reading. He dictated complex. His vocabulary was superior.
Wait, at what age?
6. He was able to describe, and he was describing the Americans and the Russians, and we compiled a book of all these stories, and through the beginning, it evolved into reading instruction. So the child is able to speak right from the beginning, learning their sounds. Reading is not a natural process.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's not. It needs to be taught through a systematic system of sound, syllables, and I guess that's taking me into, I was also trained at Windward, and there is an approach called multisensory Orton-Gillingham.
Well, that's what you're all about, isn't it?
It's one of my components because I'm here to integrate lots of good strategies. But Orton-Gillingham says it's almost like learning the piano, step by step by step, taking the child always from where they are and moving step by step by step. Now, that could work for children of, average, above average abilities. It could work for kids that are learning, quote, learning disabled, but all kids have their own learning styles.
Right, okay. And that's what you do, is find out what works for each child.
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's just pretend somebody's coming in.
Okay.
I'm bringing my little guy in.
Your little Bobby.
Right, Bobby. And I'm
So-
concerned because Bobby is just not getting it, as you would say.
Right.
He's not reading, he's not doing his homework, he's not interested, but...
And you know what? It's interesting because some parents quote, and these are like for the older kids, say that kids are, quote, lazy. I don't like to see that word. Kids are not lazy.
Well, you certainly don't want to say it in front of them, that's for one thing, right? But you don't
For
want to say it in
sure.
general.
But it is
How about unmotivated?
unmotivated.
Okay. So that's different, you're right.
Yeah, and would rather do other things, you
Yeah.
know, playing on their video games and this. And video games is another conversation,
Right,
which
right.
we'll put aside right now.
But we all get that.
It is a thing, and it does need, I'm going to call it a control, okay? So with, let's say, my young children, and here is just a chart, and I will tell them, not a chart, it's a graphic. I'll ask them to tell me what they like to do, what's fun, to write their names, and in this way, I'm getting to know just a little bit of that kid, just a little bit of that kid.
You showed me a list of words. Did you bring it? Words that they look at you. It was very interesting.
Oh, I don't have it right here. So-
But it would say like...
Okay, I'll explain.
Okay, and then I thought that was very interesting.
Right. So this particular graphic, what I say is it's the kid's brain, and I'll say, like Lisa, describe yourself.
Outgoing.
Outgoing. And I have all these color markers. Outgoing.
Highly intelligent.
I was going to say
Highly-
intelligent. And then we give and take. And then I have a book that has synonyms of the words athletic, intelligent, articulate, joyful, angry, fierce, loyal. And all those vocabulary words are essential because not only are they giving me feedback about this child, but they're also words that can be used in their writing.
Right.
So I want to integrate, and I do.
But we were also saying there's even more to it. They're figuring out who they are, so that's a wonderful thing, because don't we all need to know that? Self-assessing, they could be better. And there's so many, and getting the vocabulary, and enabling you to figure out who they are and how to teach them, right?
Yes, and there is certainly And there are many different strategies, I'm going to call it.
Do you utilize most of them and bring them all together?
I use so many, yes.
I want to segue into why are you different than other tutors?
I like to look at the whole child. The child is not just a student coming in, and the child is not learning their sight words. Sight words, or quote, tricky words, are words that you can't sound out, like the word come or the word library. And I have to figure how to teach these kids how to memorize. These words, these sight words need to be memorized because there are words we could sound out like cat, at, cat. And then there are words like the that you can't go the, and I see kids, and they try to do the, and you can't. So it comes together, you need to do both to learn. What I love to do with my beginning readers certainly is to give them the power through sounds, phonics, to read. And I use a systematic approach that starts with short vowels. The vowels are the same. They are short vowels: apple, itch, egg, elephant. And then with that, and you're pushing to make them feel competent.
It's building their self-esteem,
Absolutely.
their confidence. Okay.
And with that and the other words, they are developing to become, in my office, in a literate environment with words and charts all over the place, kids that will enjoy reading. Okay, now,
as opposed to most tutors, which what comes to mind to me would be a college kid, not to denigrate that, but a college kid who is not going to go and figure out your child.
Right.
They're going to do the math, do the English, whatever.
Right. They're going to teach that specific, let's say it's bio. Right. They are going to teach that specific skill. But when I work with young kids to college to adults, I'm going to also bring in the time management study skills. And so
I know that, excuse me, you organize the student. I know that you do that. Talk about all the other things that you do, the graphic organizers, all that too.
So reading, as I've been mentioning, it is the phonetic base and phonics. But the other part that so many kids don't get is understanding, comprehension. I mean, I haven't heard this for a while, but I know parents have said, oh, my kids could read the New York Times, they could read Harry Potter. That's not reading. Reading is thinking.
Rather than just words, reading words. Oh, that makes sense, right.
Right. So, and there is so much out there that you can figure out by reading, whether it's a newspaper, and I know parents read all the time, and there certainly there is so much out there, whether it's on the TV, whether it's on the video. But I have a book that I really love because maybe it'll put it in a snapshot. The idea of becoming an active reader. And an active reader, and I'm going to read this, reading is a lot like playing soccer. The more you read actively, I'm not just saying play soccer, the more you read actively, the better you get at it. As an active reader, you interact with the text. You are actually getting into the text by thinking, writing, and talking about it.
You give it dimension, in other words.
Exciting. So this is an adult book, The Orchid Thief, great book, written a number of years ago by Susan Orlean. The reason why I'm bringing this up is one of the components of being an active reader is to visualize what you're reading.
Makes sense.
Right. And so I'm going to just read this for our audience and you, and as I would with a child, but of course it would be a book that they're involved with. John LaRoche, oh, and I'm going to say, I want you to make a movie as I'm reading. And you can make the movie, you could visualize, and television, there is the word visualize.
You have to work at it then. You have to sit there and there's no like daydreaming. You got to be focused on.
And that's
the
what,
idea.
And that's what the idea of an active reader is that
Being involved.
You're there. Well, actually, I'm thinking the word that's popular, mindfulness.
Is that what that is? Mindfulness? Okay.
Mindfulness means that you're not thinking of, texting your friend. You're not thinking of going down for dinner. You're thinking of the text. So I'm going to read this one sentence, and I'll say you could make it in color, black and white, whatever. Okay, so here is John LaRoche is a tall guy, skinny as a stick, pale eyes, slouch-shouldered, sharply handsome, in spite of the fact that he's missing all his front teeth.
Oh, real handsome.
Yes. Does he sound like a winner? Okay, but, okay, so, describing him, he's,
that was hard for me to keep focusing, by the way. I can imagine with kids.
That's right. And then I will show you something else. Okay, so he's tall, skinny, simile, skinny as a stick would have to have a conversation. Pale-eyed, slouched, sharply handsome, and he's missing his front teeth. And if the child is there, he's going to giggle.
Right, well, like I did.
That's right.
Handsome and without teeth. Okay. Well, we're teaching him a lot there, that you could be handsome still and
And I'm not going to go on and read it, but what it is there are many techniques that teach kids how to understand. Again, it is not automatic. It's
right.
just like the first steps of sounding out words. And there is another, technique, stop and think. Think of it as active reading skills are the same skills that competent adult readers use automatically. So, myself, I'm reading the New York Times. Read, the first few sentences. Gee, say to myself.
I didn't get that. I was just going to say how often I'm doing that. I'm like reading, thinking I'm reading, and I say I didn't get any of that. Go back. So
exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of kids, well, they want to just go on. They want to finish the page.
Well, they probably don't really realize what it takes. I mean, you're a kid.
They don't.
They think they're reading, and like you said, they're not getting anything out of it. So.
And think about this. Children are watching their parents, grandparents, people in the library, people at home, reading. You don't know what the person is doing
what
as they're reading.
That they're thinking,
Not
in
at
other
all.
words.
It's a silent process.
Right. So the child is seeing and thinking they're reading, and they're also thinking they're reading when they're just sitting there. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it makes so much sense.
Right, right.
And the only way to get joy from the reading is to think about it.
Right.
And that is something that needs to be nurtured, developed, strategized. Right. And it is, again, a step-by-step approach.
I do want to make sure that we get to these books. Okay.
So another one of my programs I wrote is Study Skills, and it's getting it together without falling apart.
Okay. Is this for children, college kids?
This is, I'd say, kids above 5th grade through college.
Right.
Okay. So again, with humor, getting it together without falling apart. Because kids, how do you tackle and how do you get involved with an overwhelming task of studying for your tests or doing your homework? Again, not natural.
Right.
Small percent of the people are organized right off, but the majority of people find it difficult. So I have written a book, a program, and I'm just going to throw out some titles. I'm not going to go into each one. What are learning styles? How to use your agenda book, your calendar. However, I have a strong opinion that I want kids not to use their phones.
Good luck.
For that, no, because I don't want them to write their homework in their phones. I want them to use an actual book to write it down. It's been researched that when you write it down, it goes better into your brain just from the whole connection. How to read a chapter successfully, how to take smart notes.
Right.
And how to study for a test. And those are a whole different, category. I work with kids, and this is kids, adults, one-on-one virtual tutoring. And it's on FaceTime. And I am my student, and my student could be anywhere in the world. And for example, one of my students now is a successful and quite academic, intelligent senior in Columbia, okay, in very complex economics, microeconomics, okay. I am not doing the content, but what I do with him is help him organize that week. And each day we go over, and I speak to him once a week. How long will it take for these tasks? How are we going to break it up? How long is it going to take? And so many people don't analyze how long it's going to take. They'll say, oh, it's 10 minutes. I know that it's going to take a half hour. And it is written down, his goals for the week. And we've been working together for more than 2 years. I believe I have given him the skills to leave college as a competent, and he will be a successful working man. But he now has the basis of not being fearful, not feeling pressure, because he's going to have pressure, but he has the strategies to figure it out.
Not feeling overwhelmed too, because that's
It is
something
overwhelming.
Yeah.
It is overwhelming, and we all get overwhelmed. And but I am there. I'll say to parents, I am your words.
Right.
So that I am helping your child. And I am just, I may talk to a child. By the way, a student, I do it according to their hours. We could do it at 11 o'clock. If I need to speak to someone at 10:30 at night, again, I'm on their schedule. And he'll say to me, or other ones, could you just text me? I just want, text me Thursday and Friday at like 5 o'clock. I want to make sure that I'm on, if I'm achieving my goals. And I do.
Right. Because you're doing what he needs, and he's telling you what he needs.
That's right. So it's there. Another thing I'll do with kids, even if they're on camp or at camp or on vacation, is we could be going through a book, and I'm the one that is jogging their memory for these active learning skills. So that so many kids, yes, they are good readers, but are they thinking readers?
Right.
And I'm there to
Make them be thinking readers.
be thinking.
You know, you're talking about that college person.
Oh, yes,
So
yes.
I'm thinking about this. I would like you to read that so that we could
Yes.
really get an appreciation of who you are and what you do.
I've been doing this a while, and I think that kids get me. They absolutely get me. So this was sent to me through the mail. It was a Mamaroneck middle school teacher. It was her 8th grade class, and she asked her student to write about a former teacher who has made a difference. And I was selected, okay? That's a kick beyond. Okay, dear Judy, I'm not going to use, he is now a successful 3rd-year college student. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. In the past, I enjoyed our sessions together. My memories from that time are the best of my life, certainly. I started to cry when I received it. I received this in the mail. From making our own stories, you see, our own stories, allowing kids to make their own stories, to learning about Nelson Mandela, it was a great time. In English now, the subject is poetry. I do find it quite interesting. We have read some of the Shakespeare works, and I could talk about Shakespeare as we did before. I just want to say, I have written quite a few essays, so I hope this practice has helped me. Thank you, Judy, for teaching me so many things, and I'm going to go back to one sentence. I'm writing today, and it's a class assignment. We are supposed to pick someone that has changed us, so I picked you. And it goes on. So to be picked.
So amazing, yes. And for him to write this, he didn't have to write this to you, did he?
Yes, this is it. This is it.
Beautiful.
And a competent student. We worked at least 3 years together. And, you know, I think this is also important. Kids are, let's say, quote, on grade level. They're reading the right books, the just right books. But my work is much more than just teaching them to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. It is enriching them so that kids have what I call background knowledge. Every time you read a book, and okay, and this one is talking about, because it takes place in Florida, the Seminole Indians, and it talks about the group and what they had done and what awful things happened in Florida. When children.
I hate to do this.
Is it time?
It's time. It's time to wrap up. But this was wonderful. I know we could go on and on. Well, thank you for tuning in and for getting to know a little bit about Judy Gartman. She's a unique person, a caring professional, an entrepreneur, and an inspiration for all of us to find our passion. She certainly has found hers. Thank you again for tuning in.
Thank you, Lisa. My pleasure.
My pleasure.